Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled people stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen girlfriend thinks she's moving in with me. My roommate tells her off, resulting in tears. After that, let me go? Fine, you'll lose millions. And after that, is my boyfriend using me for money? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen loses internet for a week. Fine with me, I'll just use my neighbor's Wi-Fi. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen girlfriend thinks she's moving in with me. My roommate tells her off, resulting in tears. My girlfriend has been rubbing my roommates wrong. She's been on this zero waste kick and it's been an issue. She doesn't live with us and is becoming preachy. She's still in student housing until June when she graduates with a degree in political science. She casually talked about moving in with me several times. I haven't said anything because June is 6 months away and I thought of getting our place. I live in a big 5-bedroom house. It belongs to one of my roommates, Mindy's grandparents. It has a heated pool, a library, and an indoor conservatory. I lucked out because I met my friend from college. Recently, my girlfriend has been making herself at home like it's her place. She told Mindy, who likes to take baths in the evening, that it's terrible for the environment. She can hear Mindy, who has the rooms above mine, take a bath. This latest fight yesterday came around on dish soap. My girlfriend brought a glass jar and said we all should use this type of soap only. Using soap in a plastic bottle is bad. She also got mad because no one was using the compost bin she brought us for Christmas. She told people in the kitchen, "Things are gonna change when I move in." Mindy was like, "What?" My girlfriend said when she moves in June, she will make sure we are a zero-waste home. Mindy laughed and said, "You are never moving in, ever." My girlfriend starts, "Well, my boyfriend lives here, so I will be here." Mindy points out that her grandparents left her in charge of the home and she will decide who lives here or not. She tells my girlfriend that she overstays her welcome 99% of the time and she only puts up with it because I'm a good tenant. She will not put up with her living here. My girlfriend yelled at me and said, "I thought you settled this. I want to live here." I told her I thought we could get a studio and move in together, just us. At the word studio, my girlfriend got even angrier and said she wanted someplace with a pool and a nice kitchen. She starts on a rant about how everyone is always destroying her dreams. It ends with her crying and going back to her dorm room. Mindy calls my girlfriend a gold digger and says that I need to wise up. Mindy says I should not have let her think she could have moved in here. It wasn't going to happen. Your girlfriend is pressed over dish soap but insists on a home with a pool? As in one of those man-made holes in the ground that uses tons of excess water for no other purpose than leisure and requires a bunch of chemicals to keep natural things like algae from growing? Oh, I get it. Girlfriend only wants to be an environmentalist for the joy of being smug and telling other people what to do. That makes more sense. You're the jerk for letting the conflict get to this point. Mindy should not be responsible for handling this conflict with your girlfriend. You should. Mindy's grandparents own the house and have appointed her a property manager of sorts, so she doesn't have to let anyone live there that she doesn't like. Clearly, she doesn't like your girlfriend. Girlfriend is going to have to accept this, and if she puts up a fight, then you are the one who needs to deal with it, not Mindy or anyone else who lives there. Your girlfriend sounds annoying as heck and definitely hypocritical. Why doesn't she buy a house herself and make that a zero-waste house with a pool and a hot tub? Also, you're the jerk for putting Mindy in that position and not settling this issue earlier. She's going to kick you out if this continues. Nobody wants to be preached to in their own home when someone takes advantage of the amenities and doesn't even pay rent. Everyone sucks here except Mindy. Your girlfriend absolutely sucks. She's making other people uncomfortable in their home. I would like to be a zero waste too. Well, less waste at least. But when you live with other people, you have to persuade, not enforce. You also suck too though. You could see your girlfriend was making your roommates uncomfortable and you just let it happen. You didn't communicate to your girlfriend your expectations for post-graduation even though she was making her expectations clear to you. It would seem you were hoping to avoid difficult conversations, but part of being an adult is learning to suck it up and have them. You're the jerk. Your girlfriend also seems very pushy and unkind. But you knew that she had a notion of moving into your fancy place and also that it wouldn't happen. She shouldn't have made assumptions, but it wasn't an especially unreasonable assumption, and you had many opportunities to correct her. When you failed to counter her narrative of your future, you confirmed her assumptions. Sounds like you wanted to let Mindy be the bad guy. Shame on you. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. Isn't it amazing what people put up with to be with someone who they think is hot? Let me go? Fine, you'll lose millions. This was around 10 years ago. I've always been very technical minded and was able to read blueprints, construct complex devices, weld, among other things. I took a high-paying job with a company that made several things for railroads. The job entailed most of my skills I mentioned above. It was a very small department. In fact, there were only 2 to 3 of us, but we got along great and challenged each other, which led to higher production. Sadly, the one other guy in my department left for a better job, which left me by myself. My supervisor was great as well, liked to joke around with me, left me alone to focus on my work, and had my back when I needed him. We actually assembled signal enclosures and mast and ladder houses for railroads. Fast forward to 3 years later, and the owners buy a much bigger location and move the whole company. As you might expect, several departments get shuffled. Yep, my department gets folded into a completely different department that has no clue what I do. At first it was fine, but it starts to go pear-shaped pretty quickly. My new supervisor seemed good at first, but I quickly realized he's a snake in the grass. For example, I had to help the prototype department assemble a new, lighter type of mast and ladder house. So I'm printing out issues and suggesting fixes, etc. New supervisor is not happy. He keeps coming over, huffing, groaning under his breath, standing over my shoulder, etc. He finally interrupts and asks in an angry voice, "How much longer will this take?" I respond, "I have 4 more hours today, and 8 hours every day after that." He looks puzzled, so I explain, "This is my department, this is where I work, these are my responsibilities. So if it takes 2 months, that's how long it takes." Almost as if to get the last word in, he says, "You work where and when I tell you," and storms off. Next day, I'm called into the office, and they force me to sign a letter that states, I now work in my new supervisor's department. Fine by me. I watch from a distance in my new department as all the stock, hardware, parts, orders, etc. of my old department begin to rack up. And since I'm the only one that works in that department, or rather used to work in that department, nobody's doing anything about it. After about 2 weeks, my old department is a disaster, with items being thrown wherever it would fit. Orders had began to miss deadlines, and higher-ups wanted answers. Sure enough, I get called into the office where the new supervisor blames me for everything, but wouldn't let me get a word in. Of course, they let me go without any reason or paperwork. The look of relief on my new ex-supervisor's face when I walk out was priceless. He had no clue what was coming. I leave with a smile plastered to my face, because I knew something they didn't. I was the only one that knew how to build the mast and ladder structures. I relaxed at home for around 2 weeks because I knew I would be getting a call from them. I ignore the first dozen calls. Then I answer, "Can you come back and build, train new hires, etc. for your department?" "Sure," I say, "for $20,000. Now, that may seem like a lot, but it wasn't. They made millions from these, so there really was only one option. Pay me $20,000 or lose millions. Long story short, they went back and forth with me, but finally conceded. I received $20,000 for 2 days' work, and they were helpless. The cherry on top was my new ex-supervisor was fired for being a nitwit and costing the company $20,000. Edit. Wow, this popped off. Thanks for all the awards. Didn't expect that. Sorry it was long. Some further information. I didn't want to work for them again. It potentially would have been a situation. They used my knowledge and training of the new staff only to terminate me for some made-up reason, which I understand. Nobody wants a disgruntled employee. Why $20,000? I bounced around on numerous figures, but when it came time to say a number over the phone, $20,000 was the number that came out. No real thought. Could I have gotten more? Yes, I think so, but it paid my bills, spent some, little vacation, and gave me time to be picky about my next job. Did I get another job? Yes. As to your questions, could I train new 2 workers in 2 days? Yes. Did I do it well? No. The company wanted it as cheap as possible, so they grabbed 2 new guys from a different department with 0 experience. The best I could do was show them the general process given their limited experience and my limited time. As far as getting all the work up to date, in my department the expected production was 2 per day. My personal record in 1 day was 18 before I stopped. Previous good supervisor told me to stop. What the heck are you going to do after you finish a month's worth of work in a day? You'll be sitting around with nothing to do, or you'll be going home early. The first month I was there, I set up a series of jigs that allowed fast, repeatable results. That, coupled with years of doing it, meant I could build them in my sleep. Is my boyfriend using me for money? My 21 female boyfriend, 20 male, asks me pretty much daily to buy him things. Normally smaller things like cigs or disposable vapes or caffeine at the gas station, but it really adds up. I know it doesn't seem like much, but it's $500 a month added up. I know you may be wondering, why am I just giving him this money? I swear I'm not. I've tried to say no, but I literally feel like I can't say no to him successfully. And what I mean by this is, he'll say things like, "My day is ruined," or "Can't you just be nice this one time?" And it makes me feel really awful about myself if I try to say no. One time when I didn't want to buy him something, he told me I didn't give a hoot about him and kept spamming me at work until I was crying in my cubicle. And I'm not kidding when I say it's a daily thing. He'll sometimes wake me up super early in the morning. I work later shifts. I normally sleep till 11 a.m., wanting my debit card to go to the gas station to buy what he wants. And if I say no, he'll get really upset and say what I mentioned before and keep asking, and I won't get to sleep again until I say yes, and it's caused me to go into work incredibly sleep deprived before. He doesn't have a job. I work full-time and I go to college full-time, and I honestly think he doesn't have a concept of money spending or making. There have been times where I'll save small amounts of money for emergencies, and then once he finds out, it's gone in a few days. I was so proud of myself for saving $100, and literally in 3 days it was gone due to his gas station trips, and I ended up crying in frustration. Keep in mind, I'm not a big money maker. I just got a raise to where I make $18.50 an hour. What really irked me though is just recently he told me that I'm irresponsible with my money to be broke all the time, and that I have no reason to be struggling with money. He kept having me pull out cash advances, around $200 now, and kept citing how I spent $20 on Sims. It was the first time I bought something for myself that wasn't food for us in months. What bothered me even more is he brought up how I spent my money on my exes, and he said, "You don't owe me. I just feel like it's unfair that the crappy guys you dated got nice things, but I don't." I had felt like I've actually spent more on him than the past 2 relationships I've been in. So I went through my credit card statements and my bank statements, and I found out that since August alone, I've spent almost $5,000 on him and put all the transactions into an Excel document. I want to show him it to prove that I've spent a lot more than he thought. He said that I've maybe spent $450, but I feel like I would be the jerk because of spending all that time just to prove him wrong seems really crappy of me. And as he said before, it's not like he's threatening me and demanding money. So I kinda want to keep quiet, but he won't stop and I can't handle the stress anymore. Hun, he thinks he's entitled to your money and uses it on frivolous, non-necessary things. And then when you try to say no, he gaslights you and makes you feel so terrible you give in to his demands. He doesn't care about you, he cares about what you provide. Seriously, this is beyond just not being good with money. This is him manipulating you into getting what he wants, and no spreadsheet will change that. It's honestly better if you leave him. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. Your boyfriend is gaslighting the crap out of you and using you for money. He has some nerve to claim that you're the one who's bad with money when it sounds like almost all of your income is going towards him. My ultimate suggestion would actually be to genuinely consider leaving him, as hard as it is to hear. You deserve to be treated so much better, and right now he is showing you no respect or dignity. For him to cause you to cry at work because of how much he's pressuring you to give him money is so dangerous for your mental and physical health. If you really want to work things out with him, which you have every right to want to, I would suggest that you absolutely show him your Excel sheet stating how much money you've spent on him. And better yet, figure out how much money you've spent on yourself, subscriptions, gas, etc., and then compare it to what you've spent on him so that he can actually visualize what he's doing to you. I hope that you're able to find your own voice and stand up for yourself. You're not a doormat for your boyfriend and his needs. And if you absolutely do end up staying with him, cut him off completely and do not ever give him money. He needs to get his own job. He has no excuse whatsoever for not getting a job. If he needs gas money, then he can earn his own gas money and not gaslight and bully his girlfriend into being a sugar mommy instead of a girlfriend. If you stay with him and don't change anything or set some extreme boundaries with him, he will probably send you hurtling towards being broke and likely in debt. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. Where you ladies of Reddit find these boyfriends of yours, I will never know. Am I the jerk for uninviting my cousins from my wedding, for feeding info to my mom? I, 28, male, am an only child. When I was 12, my parents divorced when my dad found out my mom cheated on him. This was devastating to my dad. My parents were best friends and started dating when they were 17. I played sports and my dad was my coach, so I had a much closer relationship to him than my mom. I was supposed to spend 1 week at my mom's, then the next week at my dad's, but I would usually just lock myself in my room at my mom's. Usually, my dad would drop me off and I would get on my bike and ride the couple miles back to his house. My mom would ask me things and I would literally pretend like she didn't exist. It got so bad that lawyers got involved, thinking my dad was turning me against my mom. My dad encouraged me to spend time with my mom, but I couldn't. My mom tried putting us in therapy, but I would just sit there till the time was up, not saying a word to her. Eventually, my mom broke down and let me just live with my dad. I haven't spoken a word to my mom in 15 years. She would show up to my games alone. Sometimes I would ask my dad to tell her to leave. Sometimes I didn't even notice she was there. She would try talking to me after, and I would walk right past her. I cut her whole family off, besides a few of my cousins that were around my age. She showed up to my high school graduation, and I asked a couple teachers to remove her, and they did. She never dated anyone else to my knowledge and was still attempting to reconcile with my dad a few years before he passed, calling it the biggest mistake of her life and begging my dad to forgive her. When my dad passed a couple years ago, she tried to show up to the funeral and I met her outside to ask her to leave. My fiancée, Rachel, was with me when I did this, and my mom cried upon hearing we were engaged. Rachel introduced herself as my fiancée, saying she couldn't believe I hated her still this many years later. So last week, I received a letter from my mom with a large check inside. In the letter, she said she couldn't live knowing that she wouldn't be invited to her only kid's wedding, that her whole family is hurt that I cut them off, and that she had been keeping tabs on me all these years through my cousin's updates out of respect for me, but couldn't handle not being at the wedding. I ripped the check up and sent it back to the return address. She shouldn't have even known my address, as I keep her blocked on all social media. I called up my cousins who admitted that since I was 14, they've been providing my mom with updates on me. Prom pics, college updates, engagement photos, and they sent her my address. I was so mad that I told them they wouldn't be invited to the wedding anymore because I don't want my mom getting access to it. Rachel is saying I'm going too far now, and uninviting my cousins along with freezing out my mom's whole family because of her actions is a jerk move. Am I the jerk? Edit. The cheating was with a teammate's dad. This was highly embarrassing for me and caused me to have to move towns, caused me to lose friends. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're the jerk. Acting out as a 12-year-old is to be expected. Deciding not to ever forgive your mom is totally your right, though it was 16 years ago, and you, while affected, were not really the aggrieved party. The fact that you're still throwing tantrums like a 12-year-old at the age of 28 makes you the jerk. Edit. I'd even go so far as to say your fiancé should consider this a pretty serious red flag. The fact that you can act with such hatred and spite over something that happened over 16 years ago and only peripherally involved you, to me shows a pretty serious character flaw. At the very least, she should be concerned about what it would take for you to direct that anger at her and what form that anger would take. That's exactly what I thought. Being engaged to someone so unforgiving and showing so little empathy even to their own mother would scare the crap out of me. I would advise her to run. My thoughts exactly. I would be petrified to marry someone who is so unforgiving. Fiancé needs to run away from this relationship fast, and OP needs professional help to heal those open wounds. Yup, I'm gonna have to climb out onto that limb beside you and say you're the jerk. Two things jump out at me here. One, that OP was even madder at his mom than his father, who was over her cheating. This much is clear from his father encouraging him to spend time with his mom in spite of everything. 2. That even OP's fiancé is telling him he's going too far in his hatred for his mother and uninviting cousins and freezing out his mom's whole side of the family. Look, OP, I feel sorry for you and what you went through. No one says you ever have to forgive your mother for what she did, but you're taking it out on her entire family, and that's just wrong. Listen to your fiancé. She sees how unhealthy holding on to such hatred for your mother is for you. Whatever you decide to do, best of luck to you. But don't throw away your relationship with some cousins you felt close enough to that you invited them to your wedding 15 years after the divorce. That would make you the jerk to yourself more than anything. I've given this a lot of thought, and I feel like a lot of the votes in favor of him being the jerk here are a bit misguided and empathizing with the wrong person. I will say, I do agree with the fact that he needs therapy, and that amount of cortisol, which is what will happen from this level of anger, isn't healthy. But all that said, I don't blame him for that. I get feeling sorry for the mother, who so obviously feels bad about what she's done. Really, I do. But I don't think his actions are indicative of a lack of empathy for his mother so much as unresolved hurt from the domino effect her actions had on him. In fact, I think it's pretty clear this is the result of trauma. Like, apathy is the opposite of empathy, really. But he so clearly still cares, or he wouldn't be so angry. People are defending the fact that it wasn't his business, and that she's allowed to have flaws. And yes, she is. But there is a consequence/outcome for every single thing we do. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative. She made her bed and found out it was broken in more than one place. It sucks, but this is the consequence for her actions. And for the record, to all the people who say it isn't his business, it absolutely is his business. He's obviously been traumatized by this series of events. Kids aren't stupid. It's pretty clear that they can pick up on stuff from family members. The best intending parents will do everything in their power not to let it impact their kids, but sometimes it's just inevitable. Even if his father was hurt more, in theory, by his mother's actions, clearly there have been side effects that have occurred outside of that one instance. Bullying is no joke, and it's no surprise that he holds her responsible as the reason it happened. I mean, had she not cheated, then the circumstances might have been different. Also, just because his father took the brunt of the initial pain doesn't mean he didn't also experience his own horrible pain. Since when is it a competition? No two people have the same threshold for the same types of pain. We're all different. Regarding the cousins and his mother, even in the absence of specific instructions not to keep his mother updated on him with his sometimes public, sometimes private information, I feel like they are paying a price for their own actions too. You wouldn't have to tell me not to give updates to someone who hurt you and decided to go no contact with. It's blatant disregard for his very clearly implied boundaries, and it's betrayal. You're basically saying you feel worse for the aggressor than the victim if you're willing to prioritize the aggressor's wants over the victim's. Even if it doesn't seem fair, that was not their call to make. I'm really not sure how people are justifying this. They got involved, in the mother's favor, and now people are like surprised Pikachu face that there are consequences for that. Finally, I really don't think people are being fair here regarding how he's treating his mother. He has made his choice. She has time and time again not respected it. She needed to write him a letter that expresses how sorry she is, that if OP is ever willing to reconcile, she is willing and ready, and then let the ball be in his court. Then she needed to leave him the heck alone. Why is everyone glossing over this? Even if she has good intentions, she's still dismissing someone she hurt in favor of what she feels is best for her. She tried to bribe him with money. Hello? If I were being generous, I'd say not the jerk, because I don't think, despite everything I said, that there were any intended jerks here. But truthfully, I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that blatantly disregarding OP's wants in favor of the mother is a bit of a jerk thing to do by his cousins, and a jerk move by his mother to not respect his choice, no matter how sorry she is. Ultimately, what would make OP the jerk is if he was the instigator. But he isn't. He is reactionary. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. I think he just doesn't want to have any contact with his mother and doesn't want his cousins sharing all his information with her. If they could just respect his boundaries, everything would be fine. Am I the jerk for selling my ex-fiance's family heirloom when he wouldn't pay me back for our canceled wedding? I, 27 female, was supposed to get married to my ex-fiance, Mason, 29 male, on the 20th of this month. But last week, a mutual friend caught him cheating with his ex, Kim, so I called it off. Because it's so close to our wedding date, I had already booked everything like the venue, catering, and everything else. I barely managed to get any money back as it's mostly non-refundable, so in total, I've lost $20,000. Last year, I took out a loan to cover the cost of the wedding. The longer I take to repay it, the more interest it gets. When we first got engaged, Mason agreed to sharing our finances together, meaning had we got married, I would have been able to pay it off. This was supposed to be in our prenup, but because we didn't get married, it meant he no longer had to share finances. I asked him if he was still willing to help and told him that I will go into debt if he doesn't, as I can't repay it alone. He told me, "It isn't my problem you took out a loan you can't pay back," and stopped responding after that. When we got engaged, Mason proposed to me with a family heirloom ring belonging to his great-grandmother that was worth $25,000. When we canceled the wedding, he told me he wanted the ring back, but we never got around to arranging a time he could pick it up. Because I don't want to go into debt, I told him that if he didn't agree to help pay it off, I wanted a lawyer involved, that I would sell the ring. He didn't reply and ignored the messages. However, after talking to a mutual friend, Jake, I found out he had actually read the messages and told everyone he didn't care because I wouldn't do it. I asked Jake to tell Mason that if I don't get a message from him in the next 24 hours, that I would sell the ring. Jake told me he again said he didn't care and didn't think I would do it. So the next day, I sold the ring to an online website and messaged Mason to tell him it had been done and told him he shouldn't have underestimated me. He started losing it on me, saying I didn't scare him and that he would be around for the ring later. True to his word, he came to my house demanding the ring, and I told him I sold it already and showed him the proof. He blew up at me, saying I was a petty jerk and that I shouldn't have sold it because it wasn't just a ring, it was an heirloom that meant a lot to his family. A lot of my family members think I overreacted and shouldn't have gone to extreme measures, as it will be hard for him to get the ring back, even if he can at all. Am I the jerk for selling his great-grandmother's ring? Not the jerk. You. Pay me back or I'll sell the ring. Mason. No. You sells the ring. Mason, shocked Pikachu face. You gave him all the warnings in the world. Can't be the jerk given that. Yeah. On top of that, he's an ex because he got caught cheating? Not the jerk. The cheating alone should be good enough basis for Mason to pay OB back. Her loans essentially went to waste because he can't be loyal to her. She only did what she needed to. Does this dude have a brain? The stupidest thing you can do to a family heirloom is give it to someone you know you will cheat on. If it's so meaningful and invaluable, try giving it to someone who gives a darn about it. And then to ignore her because she wouldn't dare sell it? Who does this dude think he is? OP, not the jerk. You let him off easy. I'd use the remaining money to buy a cheaper copy of the ring, take a beautiful photo of it, then tell Mason you decided to keep the ring because he wouldn't pay and the heirloom has special debt-paying powers. Gotta get something out of that crappy engagement. Also, never take out a loan for weddings. OP, if you can't afford a wedding without taking out loans, just do it in a courthouse. You can never know if your fiancé turns out to be a Mason. I believe that engagement rings and heirlooms should be returned after a breakup. That being said, he cheated a month before the wedding, blocked your messages, refused to help pay, and mocked you. As Reddit loves to say, he messed around and found out. Not the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. I don't blame her one bit for selling that ring. If Mason hadn't been such a dirtbag, none of this would have happened. Am I the jerk for demanding my husband replace all the books he threw away? I, female 31, am a reader. Used to read a lot in my teenage years as an escape method from many of my problems, and recently got back into reading. I read classic books since this category is my favorite. I spend time and effort visiting libraries and online shops to collect books. Thing is, my husband, male 33, hates when I read. We've just returned from honeymoon 2 months ago, and he's been complaining about books taking our special time away, specifically at night, but I like to think that I'm balancing with my reading time. He has started calling me grandma, or say I remind him of an old lady neighbor to get me to quit reading, but it didn't budge me. A week ago, I found out that he's given my book collection away, and I was devastated after he defended himself, saying he did this for my own good and for the sake of our marriage, since I seemed to forget my priorities. I flipped out, yelled at him that those books were hard to get, and demanded he pay me and replace them right then and there. But he said that I really should invest my time in an outdoor hobby we could both do, but I was having none of it and demanded he replace the books. I gave him a list of every name of every book, and when he saw it, he laughed and asked if I was really still thinking about those books and suggested I move on. But I yelled at him, telling him he has a week to replace them and that was it. He's trying to get me to let it go, and had others say it was childish of me to start a fight over some books while the library is open, but they got no comment from me. Am I the jerk for expecting him to replace the books? Edit. Yes, my husband knew about my love for reading, but like I said, it's been a long time since I've read a book. I've read stuff online here and there, and so this is recent. I confess that my husband did express that he felt neglected and ignored by me when I'm reading, but I didn't think his concerns were legit. What do I plan on doing if he keeps stalling and didn't replace the books in a week? I've already told him what I'd do. Now I've given him extra days, which upsets him even more. And finally, am I married to Gaston? no comment on that. Not the jerk. Time to get an annulment or divorce. He seems very controlling and it will only get worse. Not the jerk. To be honest, I would divorce right away if my partner did something like this. Just throwing away something your partner enjoys and that is actually a healthy hobby is just plain toxic. Not the jerk. This was a power move, trying to assert control and completely jumping over boundaries. It's worrying that he did this just 2 to 3 months after you got married. Even if this was the only red flag, and outside of this he's a wonderful human being, it's not tolerable, and he shouldn't be allowed to think that it's no big deal. Do not back down, and he needs to understand why what he did is unacceptable. He's the one who started a fight over books, and also the one who escalated it. You standing up for yourself isn't starting a fight. He may need some sort of counseling. I do not recommend couples counseling just yet, mostly because we don't know if there are more red flags, and there are certain relationships which do not benefit from couples counseling. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know.
There's 2 types of people in this world. Those who love to read books and those who love to play video games. I can't wait for the new Gran Turismo. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.